just $3.50. The sub of the day from Subway in Boger City and the Walmart in Lincolnton.
Welcome back to KTC Broadcasting here on a Wednesday. I'm Tim Johnson. It's good to see everybody on a Wednesday. Ken, how you doing, Mr. Ken Lee?
Doing fine. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing just fine, my man. A lot of great show here for you today. A lot of great high school baseball we're going to open up with here today for you, Ken. So let's talk a little bit of high school baseball out there.
Okay. It's high school baseball season, probably getting about 3/4 of the way through, and we're seeing how the standing and races are developing. And in the 1A conference in our area, we have things tightening up at the top.
Looks like we have a three-way tie. Is that right, Ken?
We could have a three-way tie. Right now we've got Cherville Ironman with a 15-1 record, 11-1 in the conference. Lincoln Charter, who was tied with Cherville after defeating them last week, have now dropped to 12-3 and 11-2 in the conference after losing to Highland Tech. Recent game this week, Tech beat them 6-1, sort of an upset. And now Highland Tech is right there with 2 losses, 9-2 in the conference, 11-5 overall.
And Brandon Kraft was the pitcher of that game. Is that correct?
Yes, and pitched well, 6 2/3, 4 hits, only 1 run. I think Crocker came in and got the last out. So,
and also Brandon, he's American Legion Post 100 player as well. So I'm sure Bobby's good here.
Yeah, he and Crocker both are.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah,
both are. And now let's talk about another Cherville Legion player this year that's on that team. There's a big game tomorrow, Cherville against Highland Tech.
That'd be a good game.
Yeah, it will be, and I'm sure Highland Tech's going to have their ace pitcher on the mound.
Mr. Taylor Hughes?
Taylor Hughes, who so far this year is 5-0 record, ERA of 0.25. He has thrown 2 no-hitters, one a 5-inning and one a 7-inning.
That's pretty good, Ken. I mean, for a young man like that, pitching in high school, it don't matter what level competition is, whether it's 1A, 2A, or 3A, or 4A. I mean, when you have an ERA of 0.25 and already thrown 2 no-hitters and 28 innings, only walked 5 batters.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
He's hitting the strike zone.
Yeah,
he's all over it.
He's hitting the corners. He's not a tremendously hard thrower.
Crafty.
But he's crafty. He changes speed. He's got good off-speed stuff. And has been very effective, and I'm sure he'll be on the mound for that key game tomorrow night. And if they win it, then you got 3 teams there with 2 losses in the conference, and the rest of the teams in the conference haven't been nearly as competitive as these 3. I could see these 3 winning out if it ends up being tied there at the top.
Do they? I wonder if they go down to a tiebreaker like that and it's runs allowed. At the end of the season, they look at the stats and say, okay, we got 3 teams tied here with 2 losses. But do they go runs allowed, or they just do a 3-team conference?
I don't know. I don't know whether they do that, or if they have a baseball tournament and you had a tie at the top, they might. If one of the teams wins the tournament, the conference tournament in the season,
that's a good point.
That might be the determining factor. I'm not sure how it works in this league, but that could be the determining factor.
No, that's a good point there. I didn't think about that, but you're right about that too. And also, Ken, we got East Lincoln, West Caldwell, Bunker Hill, Maiden, West Lincoln, Lincoln, the SD7 2A, and West Lincoln High School Rebels had a big game last night. They played the West Caldwell, and they beat them 8-4, Ken. So that was, without a doubt, a big victory for the West Lincoln Rebels.
Yeah, West Caldwell has been in second place in that conference and still is, but handed West Caldwell their 4th loss in the conference. So that's a big win for West Lincoln, who had lost 6 out of the last 7 conference games until with that big win. So that was key to them, and actually put them with a 5-6 record in the conference.
And East Lincoln's still leading that division. They're 12-3 overall, but they're 10-1 in the conference. It looks like, Ken, East Lincoln's going to win that conference.
Yeah, they've got a good lead now with 11-1, and second place team West Caldwell 7-4. So they're going to cruise on and win that conference. It looks like, and still pretty Bundled up there in the middle, we got Bunker Hill with a 10-6, 6-5 conference record. Maiden with a 7-7, 6-5 conference record, and right behind them, West Lincoln, 7-8, 5-6 conference, and Lincoln 6-8, 5-6. So you got 4 teams that are still jockeying for position behind those first 2.
Well, I think Bunker Hill is going to take over second place.
They could. They're the hottest team, I think. They're the hottest team.
Yeah, and Lincoln, Lincoln, if they could have beat West Lincoln one game this season, I'd say Lincoln would have took West Lincoln, but it looks like West Lincoln's going to come in probably top 4.
Yeah,
I'm thinking. I think they'll beat Maiden the next time they play Maiden.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how the how the playoffs work as far as how many teams they'll be taken out of this, but it looks like the first 2 are certainly going to be there with East Lincoln and West Caldwell.
And you got North Lincoln. They're 8-5, 5-5. They're 4th place behind Lake Norman, 13-3, 9-2, and Alexander Central, who's 11-6, 8-3, and then you have South Iredale, 10-5, 8-3. So that's pretty tight, knit group there. It looks like it could go either way there. North Lincoln's got a shot, but they got to probably more likely win out in the conference to be able to have a shot to win the conference. And then you have Lake Norman, Alexander Central. They've always been top 2 teams in that conference.
And Lake Norman's taking a little bit of a game lead there. Lake Norman's always got a good baseball program, and North Lincoln and Lake Norman are 2 programs that beginning in the fall will be in the new 2A league with the Lincoln County teams of West Lincoln, North Lincoln, and Lincoln, Maiden, and some of those teams. So that would be the new alignment. So you got 2 teams coming in that's got good baseball programs.
Well, you got the Easter tournaments coming up too, Kenny. You got all the teams they're trying to lobby for the Easter tournament, and a lot of people don't realize that the Easter tournament can play a big part of your playoff picture as well. Because you want to win some games. You want to make yourself known there in the tournament, win some games, especially because a lot of these tournaments, like the Gaston County tournament, there's some really good baseball teams in that Gaston County tournament.
Yeah, and you mix and, you got
1A, 2A, 3A.
Well, you got 1As, 2A, 3As. You got a very good 1A team, obviously, in there. Cherryville, and I'm sure they're looking forward to see how they can do against some of these 2 and 3
Point, you got Stuart Kramer's playing pretty well, South Point. Always your Forest View teams. They've had some really good baseball teams too. So, that's going to be a tough conference right there.
Yeah, North Gaston.
Tournament.
I think North Gaston's leading that league.
They are,
and so they're in that tournament. So that's a tough tournament right there. 8 teams, and everybody will play. They play it all the way down to 7th and 8th place. So they'll be playing start Monday, and then they play Tuesday, and then I think they finish up Thursday and Friday with the rest of the games.
Ken, I haven't heard anything about West Lincoln or East Lincoln. Now, East Lincoln's going to go to the beach. I know they always go to the beach and play in the tournament down there. Now, West Lincoln, the last 2 years, they played in a tournament up at East Burke High School. So they may be going back there. So, but I know in the past they've always played in the tournament there in Shelby, the Easter tournament in Shelby, which is a really competitive tournament. They've got some really good teams. You got your South Caldwell, you got your Shelby teams, Crest teams. So
and next week we'll probably be talking a little bit about the tournaments and how the action's going, and we'll have more about that. Like I said, we don't have a lot of information on the other tournaments. We got some good information on the Gaston tournament, but we'll have some results of some of those games next week when we're on.
And a lot of these kids play American Legion ball too. So
they do. They do.
A lot of the West Lincoln kids, they'll be going to Cherville Post 100 and so there's I think Robbie Cowie from Lincoln, he'll be playing at Cherville this year too, Post 100.
Yeah.
And speaking of Robbie Cowie, Robbie had a walk-off home run. Was it last week?
Last Friday, I think it was, in an extra inning game. It was 11th inning.
Two-run shot.
Two-run shot. On the 0-2 pitch, I understand. So
it was.
He might be starting to warm up. He didn't warm up till the Legion season last year, and then he got hot as a firecracker. So maybe he's starting to warm up a little bit early this year for Lincoln. And
we need him to warm up.
Yeah,
Ken.
we do.
We need him to get hot. It would be really good if he got really hot and just played like that during American, like he did last year. American Legion.
He's a pleasure to watch last year.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
And Lane, I read in the paper too where Lane Hoover of the Lincoln Wolves. Lane seems like when he gets on base, he scores.
Oh yeah, and he gets on base a lot.
Yeah,
because he steals bases. He's an excellent contact hitter, real quick, and he's an excellent player for Lincoln. He's played well all year for him.
Yeah, yesterday, Ken, me and my son umped at West Lincoln Middle School, and they had a really good little left-handed pitcher. His name was Brett Mason. Threw the ball excellent, Ken. He's a crafty pitcher. He threw nothing but strikes. I mean, he pitched, I think, about 5 1/3 innings. And then Coach Matt Linton, the used to be the JV coach at the high school varsity team, Matt's the middle school coach now. Him and Cody Dellinger, Ethan Hebner, took him out, brought in Jake to pitch, and Jake pitched great, shut the door with them. They beat East Lincoln 10-5.
Wow.
They hit the baseball. There wasn't no errors. They hit the baseball. Real impressed with Samuel Duncan. His mom is Vonda Duncan. She is the middle school athletic director at West Lincoln Middle School, Norwell, great young lady. And her son Samuel's a good little ball player. Plays shortstop. He can pitch a little bit, but he is left-handed, can hit, and he can hit the ball. And so can Brett Mason. That's a good little 1-2 punch that West Lincoln Middle School's got coming up through the ranks on up there to high school. So I'm sure Coach Chapman's excited to hear about that.
And hopefully those kids will go up there and
make a difference.
And unfortunately, Lincoln didn't have a JV team this year. Hopefully they can next year with some of these kids coming up that will want to play.
Well, I heard that they didn't have a JV team, and I was kind of shocked. For years, Coach Chapman's always had a JV team, and their JV teams did well. And that's part of your program, Ken. You got to have a JV baseball team, and that's like a building process to get to the varsity. So, but yeah, I'm sure Coach Chapman's excited to hear that about the young kids. And Matt Linton has done a sensational job with those young men at West Lincoln Middle School. So, but he's and hopefully Matt Linton someday will get an opportunity to coach high school baseball as a head coach on the varsity team. He well deserved. Kids would love to play for him. I know my son did, and he's a great man.
Okay.
And also, Ken, we got some American Legion news coming up, so we're going to go to a commercial here, and we will be back here on The Best in Sports with Tim Johnson and Ken Link.
KTC.
The Chuck Wagon Grill in Lincoln wants to take this time to wish Trevor Childers of the East Lincoln Mustangs the best of luck during this high school baseball season. Trevor pitches and plays outfield for the Mustangs, and the Chuck Wagon Grill is proud to be a sponsor of high school baseball. And for award-winning food, head to the Chuck Wagon Grill for some great daily lunch and dinner specials. And they do catering for any size event. Just call 704-732-4777. The Chuck Wagon Grill, 3051 Highway 27 east of Lincoln. Go Mustangs! Classic Ford Lincoln in Shelby is this area's choice for new Ford cars, new Ford trucks, new Ford SUVs, plus a great selection of used cars too. Classic Ford Lincoln in Shelby is your one-stop dealer for Ford service, parts and accessories, along with Ford maintenance. And now check out 0% financing, APR, on the new 2017 Ford Escapes. But that's not all. Get a bonus up to $1,750 in cash and get 0% financing for 72 months, plus up to $3,240 bonus cash on the new 2017 Ford Fusions. Easy financing at the all-new Classic Ford Lincoln, 1775 East Dixon Boulevard in Shelby, online at classicfordshelby.com.
Sleep apnea is the interruption of sleep by a blockage to breathing. 8 million Americans go undiagnosed for sleep apnea. Dr. John L. Cloninger III of Lincoln can help you with sleep apnea problems. John III is a member of the American Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine. He can help you now overcome the symptoms of obstructive sleep apnea, such as excessive daytime sleep, loud snoring, episodes of breathing cessation where you stop breathing, dry mouth and sore throat, morning headaches, insomnia, attention problems, and more. John III is concerned that patients don't know there are treatments for obstructive sleep apnea, from CPAP to dental appliances or even surgery. John III offers a free consultation for anyone with symptoms of sleep apnea. Just call 704-735-0765 or come by 904 Doncha Drive in Lincoln to make an appointment. Sleep longer, smile brighter, live happier. Let Dr. John L. Cloninger III put his 21 years of dentistry experience to work for you.
There's a storm coming. We may not know its path, but your independent auto owner's insurance agent knows. No matter what happens, we'll be there when you need us most. Strong through every storm. That's how it's been for our first 100 years, and how it will be for generations to come.
Your local auto owners insurance agency is East Lincoln Insurance Agency on Highway 16 in Denver. Call 704-483-3243.
All right, we're back on the best of sports with Ken Link and Tim Johnson. And Ken, we're going to talk a little bit golf here for you on the best in sports here.
Sounds good.
All righty, Ken. Right now we have on the line, we have our good friend, Mr. Scott Davenport. Scott, can you hear us, buddy?
I can.
All right, Scott, how you been, man?
Doing great, thanks.
Scott is to Quail Hollow head professional down at Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte. And this year we are having the PGA Championship in Charlotte. And, Scott, we're going to talk about your course, buddy.
Okay, sounds good.
So, Scott, about your course down there in Charlotte, Scott, what kind of changes have y'all made in the last couple of years to get ready for the PGA Championship?
Well, last summer we closed the day after the Wells Fargo Championship, and primarily to redo all the greens. We had converted to Bermuda grass in 2013, but we really weren't happy with the surfaces, so we went to a kind of a hybrid champion Bermuda Ultradorf grass.
Sure.
And figured that while we're going to be closed to redo the greens, we might as well go ahead and make some changes to the course that we had been wanting to do. So we changed 4 holes and then redid all the greens, and we reopened August the 9th, and it's been terrific.
So, Scott, when the PGA, when you guys are hosting this year the PGA Championship, do they come in, do they set stipulations like, when they look at, like, fairways and stuff like that, different cuts and so forth, do they line that up for you guys?
Yeah. Yeah, a fellow named Kerry Haig, who's with the PGA and in charge of all their competitions, handles all that. And when we were contemplating course changes, we went to him and made sure he was comfortable with what we were doing. But he's been here a number of times, and actually he came in and widened the width of the fairways, and we changed some of the approaches leading into the greens, and
y'all changed several holes.
Yeah, he's already been involved. We've taken down a few trees and a few limbs,
right.
And he is actually regarded as one of the very best at setting up championship venues. So
yeah. So there was 4 holes of your course that y'all went in and redid. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So Scott, you've been with Quail Hollow for about 18 years. Is that right?
That's right.
And you was at Sea Island for about a dozen years, I think you was telling me?
That's right.
And 20 years with Golf Digest schools. Now, you give private lessons and so forth. Is that only for the members, or could that be for the public?
Well, I do some outside teaching, but it's primarily to the members.
Yes, sir.
I don't do a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if you've never been to Ken, I tell you, if you've never been to Quail Hollow, that place is absolutely spectacular. And you guys are not hosting the Wachovia Open this year. That's correct. You're going to wait and do it next year because of the PGA Championship. Is that right?
That's correct. It's going down to Eagle Point in Wilmington, which is another great course, and I'm sure will be a terrific venue for the
Scott, this is Ken Link. I understand you were down at the Masters this past weekend and enjoyed a pretty exciting tournament.
I did. It was a great finish. Place never fails to come through with excitement. It's unbelievable.
Let me ask you a question. I'm not a big golfer, but on the 18 when they both had a chance to birdie and they failed to get it in there, the announcer even before they putted was saying these putts are more, they're straighter, they're flatter than what the golfers had thought all day long. And sure enough, so guy Sergio completely misread his, and looked like Justin Rhodes also misread his a little bit. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it just does show you how difficult putting is down there. The difficulty at Augusta really is all on the greens, and putting the ball in the right place on the greens to have any chance of making a putt. And if those guys are misreading putts, and of course they got their caddy there, and those guys have played there a number of years, it just shows you how
tough
challenging
it is.
it
Yeah,
is.
the commentator, when he actually said that, he said, of course, these guys, they know all about that, so I don't need to be telling you, but it was interesting. That's how tough it is that they both misread it.
Seemingly misread putts that they've had a whole bunch of times. It's, of course, the situation has a little bit to do with it. But,
Oh, yes.
So, Scott, in the near future, PGA Championship, Mindy was talking about that the other day. Could it be Quail Hollow for the PGA Championship for the near future as we go forward?
Well, I certainly hope so. We have set a record for sales. Our hospitality sales are more than any PGA Championship ever. We went to Baltusrol last year for the PGA just to see how they were doing it, and they had set a record. And actually, while we were up there, we found out that we had eclipsed their sales, and our ticket sales were sold out.
Well, that's the key right there: ticket sales and money. And I'm telling you, man, you guys have got a great venue. You have a lot of outside people come in and help you guys. And
we do.
And I'll tell you, Scott, you guys are fortunate. And the PGA, to me, is fortunate to have a place like Quail Hollow. And I've worked there. I do a lot of work there. And I'm telling you, it's just a magnificent complex. And it's a great – and the people there, just the whole entire staff, is first class.
Well, you're nice to say that. We've got it. We do have a very nice place, and we hope that we'll have a terrific championship. If we get just a little break, with the weather, it really should be fun for the
True.
golfers and the spectators.
True. Well, Scott, thank you for calling the Best in Sports show. I appreciate it, my man. And what we're going to do is we'll get you back on the show before we have the big PGA Championship in Charlotte. We'll talk a little bit more about the course and so forth. And we certainly appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man.
Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Good to speak with you.
Thank you.
And, Scott, I appreciate it, man. Have yourself a great day. And that was Scott Davenport, ladies and gentlemen, here on The Best in Sports. We'll be back after these commercials from our fine sponsors here on The Best in Sports.
When you need to find a part at a price that's right, that red and blue sign is just within sight. Roll in to CarQuest and roll on. You know how good it feels when you do it yourself, and the parts you need are on a CarQuest shelf. When you want some help from a fellow car lover, it's all in one place, as you'll discover. Roll in to CarQuest and roll on.
Your CarQuest Auto Parts dealer is Eddie's Auto Parts, 2514 East Main Street in Lincoln. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County for over 75 years. Customer service is a priority at First Federal Savings Bank, where they want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, products, and services of larger banks with hometown people that you see throughout your community. They live here, they work here, and this community matters to the people at First Federal Savings Bank. First Federal Savings Bank has 4 convenient locations in downtown Lincoln, Boger City, Denver, and West Lincoln. Stop in and visit and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. Get to the Polaris Spring Sales event and hit the off-road with more money in your pocket. Financing is as low as 2.99% APR, and rebates go up to $2,000 on industry-leading Razors, the best-selling Sportsman ATVs, and the undisputed king of the utility, the Polaris Ranger. See Full Throttle Power Sports, 100 Indian Walk in Lowell off I-85. Online at ncfullthrottle.com.
Okay, we're back. The Best in Sports show, Ken Link and Tim Johnson, sponsored by Shop What's Up Shopper here at KTC Studios, beautiful Cherryville, North Carolina. We've been talking about a lot of sports, and want to talk a little bit about Legion baseball now.
We can do that.
Legion baseball is something I've got a big interest in, and something we're going to focus on as we go forward into the baseball season and the Legion season gets underway. But we had some news come out this week about the American Legion World Series, which is annually held in Shelby, North Carolina, and they've got a partnership with ESPN, who's been doing a lot of the games. Last year they did the last 3 days of the tournament. They did pool play on Sunday, and then they did the semifinals on Monday and the championship game on Tuesday. All those games were on ESPNU. The first 3 days they streamed all the games on ESPN3, where you can get on the computer and get to them. But this year they're expanded their coverage, so the last 4 days of the tournament will be.
That should
on
tell you
ESPN.
something about the tournament right there, Ken. They're going from 3 to 4, so that lets you know that this is becoming a big thing.
Yeah,
the American Legion World Series.
And the interesting thing about it, they're expanding coverage, and obviously they wouldn't do that if they didn't have the audience. At the same time, Shelby, for the 6th straight year, set another attendance record, over 120,000 folks.
And we broadcast it live.
Yeah, KTC Broadcasting broadcast every game on the radio, all 15 games, and so that's good because I try to go to a lot of the games, but I might not be there all day. So if I'm going to a game and there's nothing going on, I get to listen to it on the radio as I drive there.
Yep.
Same thing as I'm leaving. So I appreciate the fact that KTC has all those games on the radio that you can hear locally for local fans here.
So this year, Ken, Cherville Post 100, they're getting all their players back except I think one player. Is that correct?
Yeah, they pretty much got the whole team back from last year except for one or two, and maybe have a couple of new players that may come out that didn't play last year that are talented enough to play on that team. So we'll see who comes out.
So I tell you, Cherville, they got their pitching too coming back.
They do. I mean, they got a lot of players that were coming in from the Cherville Ironman High School team, that's the defending state championship.
Matt Bumgarner's coming back.
Matt
from Montreat
Bumgarner,
College.
for one of the few coming back that's actually played some college ball now.
I saw Randall Long yesterday. He was, or Monday, I believe. I saw Randall Monday.
And I know he's eligible to come back. I assume he will.
I hope he does.
Age-wise, he's eligible to come back. He graduated last year at Cherville.
I'd say Randall's going to be there.
And I look for all these teams to be improved. They got a good mixture. They got three guys that were from Highland Tech last year. They got some guys from Burns.
They got that lefty pitcher, Taylor Hughes.
Yeah,
and Brandon Kraft.
Brandon Kraft,
Crocker.
Chase Crocker.
Yep.
And like they have a lot, and they didn't have. I mean, Bat Bumgarner's a West Lincoln guy. I don't know how many guys they'll have from the West Lincoln High School team currently.
I think he was the only one, Ken.
He was one last year. I'm wondering if any of the guys on the West Lincoln squad this year will come and play. That didn't come out last year. That's what I'm wondering.
Parker Chapman, judgeable. He could play. He's a senior this year. So this last year. Dallas Bridges and Dalton Brooks.
Dalton Brooks, who didn't come out. And
Brett Urey's another one.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, he's a good player. Right. Got good speed.
Brett is.
So they might have enough. I'm hoping to have enough coming out this year that Coach Reynolds will have to look at it and make some cuts, because he got more than he.
That's the ideal situation for Coach Reynolds.
Rowan County, who is in Area 3, obviously always has an outstanding program, actually won the state tournament, Southeast Regional, and went to the World Series championship game last year and came up a little bit short. They usually have 30 or more kids come out, sometimes 35 or 40 out to play. That's how much interest is in Rowan County.
And also, Ken, the Southeast Region tournament this year from August the 2nd through the 6th at Macquarie Park in Asheboro.
Yeah, that's Randolph County and Asheboro has hosted that for the last several years. I think it's become sort of the permanent site for the Southeast region, just as Shelby's become the permanent site for the World Series. And this year, the state tournament, it alternates each year between the 4 areas in North Carolina. This year, it will be in Pitt County, would be the host team, and it'd be at Pitt County Community College in Greenville, North Carolina.
Right, that's still East Carolina, is it not?
Yeah, that's east. That's in Greenville. So that's in where East, but it's not at East Carolina. It's at Pitt County Community College, where it'd be held.
In Area 3, they're going to have 13 teams in 2017. Concord, Davison County. So you got Eastern Randolph, Greensboro, High Point, Kannapolis, Kernersville, Moxville, Mooresville, Randolph County, Rowan County, Stanley County, and Winston-Salem. So
Yeah, unfortunately we've had a good many teams drop in recent years and out of Area 3. Area 3 used to have many teams as Area 4. Area 4 had 19 last year. I'm not sure. I expect them to have probably that much this year, but some teams have dropped out of Area 3 in the last, say, 5 or 6 years. Burlington, Wilkes, Western Forsyth, South Rowan, Ledford, Lake Norman.
now, where's those kids going, Ken? Are they able to go to a different county and play?
Yes, they're able to go to the one nearest them, and they'll.
So they get released.
They if you don't have a program, you got to play somewhere.
Right.
The only problem with that is some of these kids. How close do you live to the home Legion
Right.
place? Where is it really difficult for you
Is
to
it an
travel
hour
there?
drive? Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes that's what you get into with some of the mountain teams in Asheville. Yeah, they can get guys. And you say, well, they get guys from several schools. They ought to be good. But do you want to travel an hour for practice or go to the game?
Right, that's true too.
So that comes into play too with some of that. So if you're centrally located there, it's a lot easier than if you got to travel a good many way. And, and kids like to play with folks they know. If they're not used to playing with them, sometimes kids decide they're not going to play.
In our district, can Cherville get there?
Well, I hope so. Last year was probably the most disappointing year that Cherville Legion teams had in a long time. They actually had a losing record. I can't remember the last time that's happened. So I look for them to
rebound,
and I think they'll have enough pitching this year. And I look for all the players to be much improved because they do have all of them coming back, and I look for them to have a better team this year.
We need to get Coach Reynolds on the show. I'll try to line him up, and we'll talk a little bit American Legion baseball, and also East Rutherford. It looks like they're going to be repeating this year's state champs.
Bobby Dale will have his East Rutherford High School Cavaliers hitting the baseball for sure, and he always, the way he coaches, he shoots for the playoffs. He's always working for the playoffs, and you better believe when playoffs comes around, even if he hadn't won his conference, when it comes playoffs around, everybody knows that Coach Reynolds' team is serious business, and they're after another state championship.
A little bit of Major League Baseball, Ken. You got the Rockies and the Diamondbacks and Reds, both of them off to a hot start.
Yeah, all those teams didn't have a good year last year. I mean, they were weak teams. And the thing about the Colorado Rockies, it's amazing. Everybody knows about Colorado and all the run scores.
The ball flies.
They've been doing it with pitching. They've been doing it with pitching so far. And that ball will really start flying when it gets a little warmer.
Oh, absolutely.
In the spring, it don't fly as much. But once it gets warmer, it'll really be flying out of the park.
And your Braves, our Atlanta Braves, and the Toronto Blue Jays are 1-6. What's going on with the Braves? Ken?
Braves just can't get it going. I mean, their pitching's inconsistent.
Who's the coach of the Braves now? Do you know? I know Garcia was. Freddie Garcia was. Is he still there?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think he is.
Okay.
I think he is. But they made a lot of moves, and they got an outstanding player there. He's an all-star, Freddie Freeman. But unfortunately, he don't have the supporting cast for them to compete. I just don't.
They got Kemp playing left field. Is that right?
Yeah, and I saw where he had an injury, and he's going to be out for a while now. So they don't have, a lot of supporting cast to fill in and fill a gap like that. Freeman's hitting really took off last year once they got Kemp.
Yeah.
Kemp hitting in front of him. So that makes a difference if Kemp's in the lineup.
Right. Now, how about pitching-wise? I mean, who are some of the pitchers? I mean, it's been years since I've kept up with the Braves.
Well, they got a few young pitchers, but
I watched a kid pitch the other night. I just wasn't really impressed with him. I mean, just from watching him.
No, they have some kids that's got some talent, but they're inconsistent, and they just haven't put it together. There's a lot of good ball players that come up through the minors, but they got maybe good skills, good talent, but they just hadn't put it together yet. And I think that's what the Braves have, a lot of young players they have.
We need to try to get some info about Bradley Keller, Crest High School standout product. He's with the Atlanta Braves in the farm system, so need to find out a little bit about Bradley. I'll try to get in contact with his dad, Brad, and find out how he's doing. So now I think they had him playing at left field at one time, Ken. And he started off pretty good, and so I hadn't heard much, lately. So he's one we need to find out about. Brad's a good kid.
One of the major league games this year, this past week, the Phillies scored 12 runs in the first inning. The Phillies.
In the first run.
The first inning
12
put
runs.
12 on the board. That's amazing for anybody to do. And the Phillies in the first inning put 12 on the board.
Wow.
And that was pretty amazing to me. That's just a few highlights. So far in Major League Baseball, has only played about 7, 8, 9 games. So it's hard to make any assessments yet, but it would be nice if Braves would have got off a little bit better start because they're behind the 8 ball right out of the gate again.
Right. Had an opportunity to talk to a good friend of mine yesterday, Ken, Miss Lori DeMarcus. Her son Spencer played baseball for me years ago. Lori is good friends with Mark May, Luke, and all them. They're all like real close family. And so anyway, I've been trying to get in contact with Mark. He's a hard person to get a hold of.
I'm sure that family's probably pretty busy nowadays.
But want to say hello to Spencer DeMarcus. Spencer is a sophomore at Huff High School. That's where Luke went to high school at. And he is one of the best baseball players I've ever coached, Ken. Smartest kid for a 9-year-old, 10, 11-year-old. He was years ahead of everybody on the baseball field. He's a great young man. I know his mom and dad. I know his whole entire family. The grandfather is just first-class individual. Just great people. And Spencer's doing really well at Huff High School. He's a catcher. He's rotating. And so anyway, and his brother Will, who's played baseball as well. Will's at South Carolina. He's loving life at South Carolina. Talked to his mom. So but I want to say hello to those good folks that are tuning in to us too here today on the Best in Sports. So all right, Ken, we're going to go to a commercial, my man, and we'll be back after these fine messages. And we're going to talk a little bit of NBA basketball, Ken.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it and, the sad season for the Hornets again this year.
All righty. Ken Link, Tim Johnson.
Back on Best in Sports on KTC Broadcasting, Carrollville, North Carolina.
It's like going on vacation without leaving town. At the Glen Oaks Golf Club in Maiden, sure there's golf, but there's a whole lot more, like their swimming pool, driving range, picnic shelter, and their new clubhouse, featuring a snack bar and a big banquet room. Great for weddings, receptions, class and family reunions. So for a fun day of golf and much, much more, see Glen Oaks Golf Course. Call 828-428-2451. 828-428-2451. Online at glenoaksgolf.com. Unless the Lord builds a house, its builders labor over it in vain. This is from Psalms 127, and this verse is what Key Builders in Lincoln is built on. Key Builders in Lincoln is large enough to do what the big boys do, but small enough to be personal. Bring your own plans or visit the website at keybuildersnc.com and view theirs. They have homes for everyone, so call your local hometown builder, Key Builders, 704-735-0040, or visit their office at 1459 North Aspen Street in Lincoln. Like them on Facebook, too.
When Auto Owners Insurance was founded in 1916, the world was quite different. Yet with all that's changed, our commitment to be there when you need us most hasn't. By teaming up with independent agents, we've made a difference for generations of customers, and will for generations to come. And by making a difference every day, 100 years seem to go by in a flash.
Your local Auto Owners Insurance Agency is Mooney Insurance Agency, located at 528 East Main Street in Maiden. Call 828-428-8231.
Drew, this new city just makes me miss home, man.
Go get a sweet tea from McDonald's. They make it fresh, sweet, and it's icy cold, just like your mom's.
But I miss home.
Oh, so you miss your mom telling you to make sure your room's clean? Or
Close the fridge, Ryan, and stop letting all the cool air out. Or turn them lights off.
All right, got it. The sweet tea is just right. But you know I'm going to tell my mom you got jokes.
No, don't.
This is no joke. Stop by McDonald's and get a large sweet tea for just $1 all summer long. Large sweet tea, just $1. Price and participation may vary. Limited time only.
It's Breakfast Madness at Mitchum's Kitchen in Vail. Check out these breakfast specials. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sausage, steak, or liver mush biscuit for $1.39. And on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, get the big breakfast. 2 eggs, 1 meat, 1 side, biscuit or toast for $4.59. And drink is included. It's Breakfast Madness at Mitchum's Kitchen, Highway 274-27 West intersection in Vail. Call 704-276-1055.
It's Wednesday here at KTC Broadcasting. The best in sports. Tim Johnson and Ken Link. We're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5. And Ken, we are going to go to radio hopefully soon, and that'll be WCSL 1590 here in Cherryville.
And we may have a little bonus coverage. We may be able to give you 2 hours of sports. So we're working on that, and hopefully we can do that very soon.
Absolutely. All right, Ken, NBA basketball. We're going to talk a little bit of Hornets for a little bit. We got the they don't make the playoffs, Ken.
No, they don't make the playoffs, and it's the chances I thought were pretty dim 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they made a late run, and then they lost some that last week and got down to where they pretty much had to win out the last 4 games to have a chance, and I think they lost 3 out of the 4. Got beat pretty bad last game of the season, so they didn't make it. So they're not there. We've got playoffs starting this weekend. You got the quarterfinals, the conference quarterfinals. After that, you got the conference semifinals, and then you have the semifinals between the 2 conferences, and then you actually have
the finals itself.
Final championship.
The Golden State Warriors, they're starting to come on. The Warriors.
They're coming on, and people still think in the West it's Golden State that's probably going to end up there. And all year long they thought it'd be Cleveland in the East, but the Celtics sort of overtook them there. And
are they the number 1 seed now?
I think the Celtics made the 1 seed and nosed out Cleveland. I know Cleveland's been resting some players and that kind of thing. But sometimes you can't just turn that switch and turn everything back on like it was. So could be interesting. We'll see if the Celtics can give them a run in the East.
I'm gonna make a prediction. I'm gonna say the Cleveland Cavaliers is gonna go out in an early round. I don't think it'll be the first round, but I'm thinking maybe the second round. I think they're gonna go out. I'm gonna make a prediction right now.
Well, we'll see. NBA playoffs take a long time. They're starting this weekend. They start at 4:15, and the last championship series will begin 6-1.
Yes.
So it'll be the middle of June before the NBA basketball championship is decided.
What do you think the Hornets have to do, Ken, to get back into playoffs and possibly be a contender to make it to the championship?
Well, everybody's been waiting for them to make some moves that can get them there, but I haven't been happy with the moves they made. I mean, they brought Plumlee in this year, and he was injured, and he's got a big contract, and I didn't understand that at all. It didn't make any sense to me. Maybe the best thing to do is get lucky in the draft. They've been unlucky in that they haven't been able to get great draft picks. They when they have injuries, they just don't have good enough supporting talent there that they can fill in and keep going like some teams do.
I got an idea. I think they need to hire the our counterpart here at the radio station, Kevin Hastings. He knows basketball. Listen, that guy knows basketball.
He loves
absolutely.
He loves
absolutely.
NBA. He loves NBA basketball.
So I'm saying hire Kevin Hastings. He'll straighten that situation out. Kevin's a good friend of ours, and he's responsible for putting us on the radio. So we thank Kevin a lot. So. And also, Tony Romo last night, Ken, dressed out for the Dallas Mavericks home basketball game.
Yeah, he looked a little strange out there.
He did, didn't he?
I know he's a football player, but among those 6'9" guys out there, he looked like maybe a little short, stubby thing. Although I know he's in shape. He just looked funny out there with those other guys, you know.
Well, I tell you, Ken, a lot of people don't realize this. Romo in high school, now listen to this, Ken. This tell you what kind of athlete he is. He actually missed qualifying for the U.S. Open by 2 strokes.
I understand he's a very
couple
good
years
golfer.
in a row. Great guy. Now listen to this. In high school, as a basketball player, he was the state of Wisconsin, the best basketball player coming out of his senior year. The best out of the whole entire state.
He's certainly a good athlete.
He's one heck of an athlete.
And played well. It just unfortunately had some pretty significant injuries the last several years. So,
right. And like me and Kevin, you were talking about earlier, Romo missed his chance, or should I say, Jerry Jones hurt Tony Romo in the years past by not putting a better team around him to give him an opportunity to win a championship there in Dallas. And I don't think it's Romo's fault. I think Romo carried that team for years. They never had a defense. And never really had an offensive line. I mean, so he put that team on his back, willed that team, and won a lot of games for him. And I'm a Romo fan, always will be. But I think he's going to do well in the broadcast booth. I think him and Jim Nance.
I think he will. He's got a little bit of a learning curve, but obviously he knows football and he seems to be articulate and well liked. I think he'll do fine. I don't know where Phil Simms will be put at. Evidently, they'll find him something else to do.
And he did a sensational job.
I always thought he was very professional.
Great quarterback.
And did a great job on the broadcast.
He won a Super Bowl with the Giants. And would have won 2 of them if he hadn't got hurt. So, all right, Ken, we have a hometown young man, Mr. Chaz Surratt at UNC. He's the quarterback. He's competing for starting position, and there's 3 quarterbacks there. One of them was a transfer from LSU. And Ken, you've got some exciting news that you tell our listeners.
They've actually got 3 guys that are competing for the quarterback slot, not counting the LSU graduate transfer who's coming in. Coach Fedora wouldn't speak about that because he's committed verbally, but until he graduates from LSU on June 1st, he can't officially
So he's not there yet.
Signed. So he's not here yet.
Okay.
So they've been doing the spring practice, and they had the spring game, and these 3 guys that are still there are battling it out. And nobody had really stepped up and taken the lead as far as having edge over the other one.
I first read, Ken, where in the paper just talking about Chaz and stuff. I first read where he didn't do so well.
Yeah,
he
they
was
had
like 6 of 14.
They had a spring game. I think he was 5 or 14.
Something like that. Yeah.
The other guys had a better passing percentage, and one guy threw several touchdowns.
Yes.
I watched a little bit of just some highlights. They didn't have all the footage on it. Even though his completion percentage wasn't that great, they said he did an excellent job of managing the team, running the team. They scored some touchdowns on there. They had on the quarterbacks, they had green jerseys on, which means you cannot touch. I mean, you cannot tackle. And so a couple times he faked and made some cuts and got into open. Of course, he quit running after they touched him because he don't want to tackle a quarterback. But you could see athleticism. Now, I got on the UNC website and I was looking at some information. They said the last practice, April 1st, which is the week before they had the spring game, the offensive coaches decided to take those green jerseys off those quarterbacks.
And turn them loose.
Turn them loose like a regular player. And they said when they did, for those 3, when they on practice, that Chaz Surratt stood out athletically. He made plays. When pass protection broke down, he scrambled, made plays, just looked much better athletically than the other 2 quarterbacks.
Well, that fits Larry Fedora's system. Chaz Surratt fits his system. Now, sometimes coaches make decisions, based on other, possibilities. But in his situation, Chaz, I mean, we saw him at East Lincoln. We watched him play
a lot. He is athletic.
He is athletic.
And he can make things happen.
Yeah.
And when you go back to pass, when you can avoid that rush and make plays, that's a big thing. If you got a statue back there and it's like you got to depend on those guys to keep you clean every time, it's tough to do. But you got somebody who can scramble, make plays, that's a big deal. Fedora likes a quarterback that can run.
Mobile quarterback.
He likes somebody who can use his legs. And guess what? Surratt's better than the other 2. Now, the guy coming in from LSU, I don't know much about him. When he gets here, we'll see. But I would say Chaz is in the running.
Well,
so we'll see.
That's good news, Ken.
It is good news.
That's good. I mean, he went in there, and like you said, they took the green jerseys off and said, all right, boys, go at it.
And they said when they did that, one quarterback stepped up as far as having the edge over the 2, and it definitely was Surratt during that practice.
Well, that's good news. We need to call Coach Larry Fedora, try to get him on the show too, and talk about Chaz and talk about his football team. And all right, Ken, it's good news. Now let's talk about. You want to talk about some NASCAR, Ken?
Yeah,
Jimmy Johnson won last week.
Jimmy Johnson won in Texas at the O'Reilly Parts 500. Kyle Larson finished in the top 5. I mean, Kyle Larson is still ahead in points with Chase Elliott.
Chase is second now.
Yeah, second.
How about Kozlowski? He's got to be in the top 5.
He's third. And Johnson, who had some bad races, he's up to 10th now. Also, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had his best finish of the year. He finished 5th because he's had a tough year so far. So that was good to see.
So he's pretty far back.
Yeah, he's pretty far back. He got some work to do to get in there.
Right.
But he's pretty far back. Something else on the college scene I just want to mention is some basketball as far as some players
Yeah.
declaring for the NBA. Duke has 3 players they've already declared. They had Tatum, then they had Giles, who didn't, because of injury, didn't get to play a lot this year. I understand he's very talented, but he doesn't have much experience because he missed a lot of the season with injuries. And you had Kennard, who obviously was a very good player for him this year. All 3 have declared for the NBA. Grayson Allen hasn't said anything yet, so I don't know whether he will declare or not. But 3 have. I also read that 2 Duke players who didn't get to play much this year off the bench are transferring.
Really?
Yeah, and they had 2 seniors that graduated. They had Jefferson and Matt Jones, so they pretty much going to have to remake most of their whole roster, it sounds like.
So it sounds like to me, Coach K is going to have a totally new team next year.
Yeah, sounds
He's going to be
like.
Young.
Yeah, and
unless you get some junior.
Yeah.
They hardly ever go over junior college.
They
kids,
go
do
after some of the one and done guys and things like that. So I don't know what Allen will do. Allen would have came out last year. He would have been his stock would have been more, and he got drafted
than
higher
what it was this year. Yeah,
than it was this year.
He hurt himself this year
So
with his attitude.
the question is, does he want to stay around and see if he can prove his stock, or does he want to look around and say, I'll be playing with a bunch of new guys in here, and maybe I want to go anyway. So we'll see. As far as Carolina, folks are expecting Justin Jackson to go, although he hasn't announced that he will yet.
I'm surprised that Kennard's going. Luke Kennard.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
It could go either way. I'm not surprised because he did have a good year.
He did.
And his stock probably wouldn't be any higher if he stayed. That's probably the reason he's going.
So Duke's rebuilding.
They'll be rebuilding. Recruiting. I don't
Reload,
know.
rebuild.
Yeah, I don't know who they. I know they got some good players coming in, but when you playing, it's not easy to do what Coach Cal does at Kentucky. It's not easy to bring in these one and done freshmen, put them together to play well, to actually do and go good enough to go deep into the tournament, because you playing with new players, you're trying to teach them, get them to play together every year.
In Kentucky, they started off kind of slow. Is that right? And then they got
Yeah,
better
they
as
got
the season
better. And Coach Cal's pretty good at doing that.
Oh yeah,
it's tough to do that.
No doubt about that. And also ACC baseball too, Ken.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that.
I see that
with in the national rankings, you got 3 in the top 5. You got Oregon ranked number 1, Louisville from the ACC number
Clemson.
2, TCU 3, and then Clemson 4, and Carolina ranked 5th. And Carolina had a game yesterday against South Carolina,
the 8th team in the country,
ranked 8th in the country at Charlotte at BB&T Stadium there, and Tar Heels swapped them 20-5. Wasn't even a close game.
Yeah, one of my co-workers' son went to that game, and he said Roy Williams was there with his grandson. Said he sat like 6 seats behind him, and said that he got to talk to him a little bit, say hello to him. But anyway, Carolina beating South Carolina 20-5. That's pretty.
They're on the roll. That's their ninth straight victory. And in the ACC, you play 3-game series over the weekend. They won every series against ACC teams they played this year. They swept some of them 3 games to none. Some of them they won 2-1, but they won every series against every team they played on the weekend so far.
It's good to see Clemson back in the top 5.
Yes.
I mean, Clemson's always been a great program in baseball. They've always been like when you think of baseball in ACC, it's always been Clemson, you know what I'm saying, in Florida State. Now, Florida State's got to be somewhere in there. And how about NC State? They've got to be in the top 25, wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I think they stayed. I think Wake Forest is in there, maybe
Wake Forest?
top 25 too, I believe. But there's a lot of good teams in ACC. I mean, when you combine, you got these new teams that come in from the East. Also, Virginia always has a good baseball team.
Virginia, yeah. They won a national championship a few years ago.
So Carolina's leading the Coastal Division by a good bit over Virginia, and then Louisville and Clemson's in the Atlantic Division, and they're at the top, battling out there in the ACC. Something else I want to talk about. We've been talking about baseball, and you might have heard the term sabermetrics, and what sabermetrics is. It's just the analysis of baseball data, in-game results and stats, and it's very complicated stuff. If you remember the book Moneyball and the movie Moneyball, where they talked about some of that, and Billy Beam initially applying it.
He was the one that really got that going.
And
for the Oakland
if you look
A's.
at the history of that, the guy who really invented a lot of this, these stats and started looking at it was a guy named Frank James. But as I was looking at some of the research on that, I run across something about David Johnson. Now,
Mets old manager.
Mets manager. He originally played for the Orioles, and then he went over to the Braves and decided to become a home run hitter and hit 43 home runs in 1 year and set the home run record for a second baseman. But I was reading about him. Tim, I didn't realize this, but as it turns out, he graduated from Temple University with a BA in mathematics.
And the numbers guy.
Yeah, and listen to this: when he played for Earl Weaver at the Orioles, he played from 65 to 72. In the early 70s, 70, 71, 72, he wrote a computer program. He used a computer at a brewery that the owner, the owner of the team had, and he wrote a program, and he used the results of that program with the statistics he did to try to convince Earl Weaver to bat him second in the lineup. Well, Earl didn't buy it. He didn't buy it. He said
so. He was bringing the numbers.
He was bringing the numbers. Earl said, "This proves you need to be batting me second in the lineup." Earl old school said, "You crazy? I'm not doing it." But to go on with that, after he finished his major league career, he went to managing in the minors. Right. And the first minor league team he wrote another computer program of his team statistics and trying to massage those to help him manage. And when he eventually got to the major leagues and managed with the Mets, he took the Mets to a world championship. And guess what?
He won it.
He won it. And he hired a guy to write another computer program to massage stats. So he was really on the front end of that back in the 80s.
Right.
70s and 80s. Now, the Oakland A's and Billy Beane made it famous. Now everybody uses that kind of stuff.
That same
but it was
system.
interesting that Davy Johnson was writing his own computer programs back in those days.
Right. You think Coach Reynolds used them stats?
Negatory. I don't think so. I think he's got a lot of stats in his head.
Yeah, he probably does.
He got them in that computer, that brain in his head. I guarantee you he's massaging a lot of that stuff. But I thought that was an interesting story. I can relate to it because back in those days, this was before internet, but back in those days, if you got a math degree, you didn't, in 4-year schools, they didn't give you an IT degree.
Right.
You'd get a math degree and you could take IT courses. That's what I did. When I graduated from UNC Charlotte, I couldn't get a degree in IT. I got a degree in math, and I took some computer programming courses. Now you can get degrees like that everywhere, but I'm sure that's what his was. He had a degree in math. He took some programming courses, and he started writing some programs to do that. For Earl Weaver, he didn't buy any of that. But
so Earl didn't let him hit second.
He didn't get to be. In fact, he ended up getting traded to the Braves. But I thought that was an interesting story. We can talk more about sabermetrics and how they used and the thought behind them. Really some complicated formulas and that kind of thing. But a lot of people are using that. We can do that another time. But I thought that was an interesting story about Davy Johnson that I had not heard before.
Well, so in other words, the stats and stuff like that is a lot of that stuff you used in fantasy baseball and fantasy football.
You do. And that's the reason I know about it, because I play a lot of fantasy baseball. And you use a lot of that to try to evaluate and predict what players are going to do this coming season. And that's what all fantasy is all about, picking the players, trying to predict what they're going to do. So,
in the NFL draft, it's going to be April the 27th through the 29th. And
2 weeks from tomorrow it starts.
Your question was how many quarterbacks will go in the top 10. That's a good question. And who are the Panthers considering at 8th pick? I heard they might try to trade up to the number 2 pick with San Francisco.
Yeah, they've been talking about that. And there's been some discussion about if you're going to take a running back at 8, would you take Fournette or would you take McCaffrey, who now they say could go in the top 10?
Right. All right, Ken, that's going to do it here for the Best in Sports show with Tim Johnson and Ken Lee. Ken, before we go, I want to say hope your wife gets better. She had a little surgery, and we're thinking of Teresa, and we love her so much. She is the best.
Well, I thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And we'll see everybody here next Wednesday. Ken, we may be on the radio next week, Ken. Never know.
We may be, but we'll be here at 4 o'clock for sure.
That's right. So thank everybody for tuning in to us here on the Best in Sports. Tim Johnson, King Lake. I want to thank Scott Davenport from Quail Hollow, the head professional there. I want to thank him for calling in. And we'll see you guys next week.
So long.